Hi, I want to give you an example of compassion that I saw in the healthcare industry a couple years ago. My mother was diagnosed with dementia, and she was going through a lot of things where she had moved a couple times from her house into an apartment, and then eventually into a nursing care home. And even during COVID, she was there. And then a little bit after COVID, that's when she really started to her mental faculties started to decline, and she needed to go from standard living care up to um, memory care and stuff like that. So she was there for probably about 2 to 3 years, and then you could tell things were getting progressively worse. And up until about a couple weeks before she passed, she was doing okay and stuff. And then she just kind of hit a wall, and that wall was kind of stark for myself and my sister. And at that point, we decided it was time to get her hospice involved. We had talked to a couple of the nurses at the healthcare facility my mother was located at, and they resoundingly gave us a suggestion for this one outside of York, Pennsylvania. And so we decided, we talked to the case manager, and we were blown away. We were absolutely blown away by this person. His name was Peter. Um, you could tell that he had a real passion for his job. I forget what he said his other career was before he went into this line of work. Um, but you could tell there's something different about Peter. You could tell that it wasn't a job for him, that it was really something that he really enjoyed because he loved giving comfort to the families. At that point at her stage of dementia, um, she didn't know anybody. She had known my sister up until that point. She didn't know me anymore because I lived a couple hours away and didn't get a chance to see her as much. Um, but you could tell that Peter had had enough experience where that he knew how to guide us through the process of what to expect, and he really cared about my mom as a person and not as a patient, if that makes sense, because he didn't want her to struggle. He didn't want us to struggle, and he was very methodical in a good way about stepping through the process of what hospice was and what hospice wasn't. Um, and that took a major burden off myself and my sister. My sister she lived a lot closer, so she was a lot closer to the whole situation. I was just kind of the nice young man who came to visit once in a while and stuff like that, which kind of hurt, but I kind of understood it because dementia is just a nasty disease. But Peter really got to the point where he would he would be there with my mom like every other day. There was another full-time person who was there every day to check in my mom, give her medicines and stuff like that. He offered to pray over my mom and stuff like that. It went to the extra level of what you expect for hospice care, and it really blew us away. Like I would be eternally grateful for what he did for myself and my sister, especially my mom. She didn't recognize us. She didn't know us from anybody. And even towards the last week, she was pretty much, I don't want to say she was unconscious, but she was definitely not like aware of surroundings or anything like that, which was awful to see. But again, talking to Peter, interacting with Peter, he gave us his cell phone. He said, "Call us anytime, text me anytime, whatever. I'll if you have a question or whatever." And honestly, that made that whole process, as difficult as it was, made it so much better because we understood that people do care out there. Because we thought it was just the two of us, plus my one mom's one brother who was still alive, and a couple of my aunts and uncles on my dad's side they cared. They couldn't be there, but Peter was there. The other hospice nurse was there, and it really just gave us a self of comfort knowing that she was being taken care of. And I again, without him, I don't know what we would have done. I think to this day, I'd still probably be more of a mess than I am. I mean, it's still difficult, but again, knowing that she was in good hands, and then he kind of gave us even like signs to look for towards the end, so we knew like when to be there and stuff like that. Or even 2 nights before she passed, we knew that we could go home and knowing comfort that she was going to be there. But as the signs progressed, we knew, and again, I could never thank him enough. So um, that's probably my best example of compassionate care, and it's certainly something that it's not. Again, it wasn't for the patient at the time; it was for the family, and that made such a big difference for all of us. So, thank you for letting me tell my story.
Hi, I'm Gina Goodman, and I'm a supportive care representative in hospice. Sure, so compassion is a very big component of hospice, and I think that when you think of hospice, a lot of it comes down to the physical symptoms of the dying process, making sure patients are not in pain, that their breathing is managed, and those sorts of things. But there's also this other component of hospice that a good hospice team will pay attention to, and that's the little details like, do they have certain scents that are familiar to them? Do they have favorite music? Do they have picture frames from home that they might want to have on the bedside table to make them feel more comforted? We as a hospice team, which is a multidisciplinary approach between social workers, is a very big component of hospice, and I think that when you think of hospice, a lot of it comes down to the physical symptoms of the dying process, making sure patients are not in pain, that their breathing is managed, and those sorts of things. But there's also this other component of hospice that a good hospice team will pay attention to, and that's the little details like, do they have certain scents that are familiar to them? Do they have favorite music? Do they have picture frames from home that they might want to have on the bedside table to make them feel more comforted? We as a hospice team, which is a multidisciplinary approach between social workers, chaplains, nurses, CNAs, all together try to be on the same page, get to know the patient, who they were before they entered this phase in their life, and incorporate those things as best we can. Unfortunately, there's a lot of patients who do come onto hospice who don't have family or a support system who come to visit them, and they're living in a place like a nursing home or assisted living, and the hospice team is the only group of people coming in to spend time with them. So all those little details really make all the difference at end of life. And these people who are coming in, especially our CNAs, they're coming in to bathe the patient, to dress them, to do those activities of daily living with them, and they're also incorporating those things that are most meaningful for the patient. And they don't have to do that. That's something that's just really unique and special to hospice teams, and we take a lot of pride in the fact that we truly go above and beyond to get to know our patients, to make those final days, weeks, months as meaningful as possible.